As the Middle East experiences a state of escalating tensions and turmoil, French President Emmanuel Macron arrives in Egypt to discuss regional crisis with his Egyptian and Jordanian counterparts. Joined by a high-level delegation, Macron's visit focuses on Gaza's uncertain future, the situation in Lebanon, and the war on Sudan, among other issues of common interest. As France and Egypt deepen their existing partnerships, all eyes are on their shared vision for stability, prosperity, and hope in the Middle East. I'm Hala Al-Hamalawi. Welcome to In Depth. French President Emmanuel Macron's visit to Egypt holds immense significance amid the Gaza humanitarian crisis. The timing is very critical as President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi joins Macron and Jordan's leader to address the prevention of Israel's forced displacement plans and to advance Gaza's reconstruction. Discussions also address regional challenges such as terrorism, Libya, and Syria. During this packed agenda, Macron a ceasefire and calls for the resumption of aid delivery. A high-level French delegation underscores the strengthened Egyptian-French ties, with agreements signed in health, transportation, and education. Both nations aim to launch an enhanced strategic partnership, pushing for a two-state solution and fostering regional stability. Under Sisi's leadership, Egypt unites with France to alleviate Palestinian suffering and promote peace. And now we go live to listen to President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi's speech during this very important visit.
Of localization to the important thing is that we would like to lift burdens on the Egyptian economy. We export a large number of food. So this is something to solve. We have, of course, a large number of youth and employees with the refugees or the visitors, as I say, in Egypt from other countries. We are supporting, I can say, I ask the President that we have a partnership that we can benefit from. So we are here to solve all the challenges or the problems. We would like that the citizens of Egypt and France would benefit. When I am speaking with the French President, I am speaking with a friend. He understands. He is always supporting. I thank him very much. Thank you for being with us. Egypt is a good opportunity. We are ready for any project you would like to implement. We to localize the industry. we are going also to benefit. Well, I welcome you. I welcome the President. I thank you. I thank him. We are supporting and appreciating and admiring. Yes.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président.
أشكرك شكرا جزيلا.
Always supports Egypt and have full confidence. We are the first investor outside of the fuel field, the first investor in Egypt with more than 7 euros private investments. We add to this the commitment of the French development agencies, which you have praised this morning during the press conference. This morning, in different fields, energy, water, education, among others. We're always supporting Egypt and we are a trusted partner. We have accompanied you building this massive infrastructure in different projects, whether in the field of transport or the communication systems and management and construction in different cities. We are fully convinced, and if you have mentioned this, and you've mentioned this, Your Excellency, that we are able to find prosperity together. For us, investment in Egypt is an investment in a stable company, and for 10 years your leadership was very wise to build with the great capability development, and we are fully confident in the Egyptian system to open new job opportunities, not only as a market. We are confident, both of our nations, we are confident that in a world with increasing doubt and uncertainty, we shall have stable steps towards independence, not isolation but independence. It's not only for your country, but it is some kind of political non-bias or geopolitical non-bias. We don't, and I think this is the right path to take. As you have stated, each of our country is a window to our convictions. In last September there was a very important summit convened, and I know that in May there will be another summit for Africa in the Middle East that to be convened in Egypt, and I call upon our companies to continue these efforts. The three sectors you have focused on express the non-bias and the focus and emphasis on cooperation and development. Different companies and agreements signed into this morning is an evidence that we have learned the lesson, if I might say. We have seen the implications of COVID-19. We have all suffered the repercussions in the health sector, and ever since we have been working to take all the precautions possible in the field of diagnosis and treatment. We are innovating and we need independence from others, and this is what we have been working on, and I was honored that the Union office invited me at the start of the pandemic, and we have developed several partnership and agreements that haven't stopped ever since. We need to do more in the field of between Egypt and France, because it is a main driver of prosperity. For us, this is a very main driver for development, and in the field of this health, I think that continuing our partnership in the food sector is also important for the health sector. There are a lot of already existing partnerships and agreements, and we look forward to promoting them. The second driver is energy. We have listened in your different speeches, and I would like to praise your leadership in this regard for a net zero carbon economy in Egypt. Now you're heading to a 42% carbon percentage in the energy production in Egypt. Egypt is taking steps towards independence in the field of energy, as well as France and the nuclear energy and different other kinds of energy as well. There is the Schneider Electric company, the ADF, and these are French displays to create more job opportunities and to support prosperity and advancement in your countries as well. Here, the expertise factor is very important, and the Russian-Ukrainian war implication indicated our capabilities in the field of energy, and we must learn the lessons and to develop the self-sufficiency in the field of renewable energy. And lastly, there is a battle of artificial intelligence. Announcing Capgemini to multiply their investments is a factor of confidence in Egypt. There is also a French conviction that the artificial intelligence sector carries a lot of the technological revolution to increase production and to turn the supply chains and production chains, which will affect all the sectors that we have mentioned: energy, pharmaceuticals, health, and others. And therefore, we need to achieve solutions, to come up with solutions that we are really able to working with men and women who are capable, and also spreading expertise networks that we have without you being dependent on us, but we are working on this expertise transfer. France is the first leading power in the field of artificial intelligence in Europe. We announced a 109 million euro investment in the field of artificial intelligence because we have the capabilities and energy resources with our partners in the Gulf, especially the UAE. There is an opportunity to develop a factor and an axis between France and the Middle East in the field of artificial intelligence, which enable us to be resilient enough against any kind of shocks, and also will enable us to innovate. It will be a guidance for us in our actions. There is a strong partnership between us. We have developed agreements in the field of defense as well as different infrastructures. Egypt is a huge power geopolitically, military-wise, and also demographically. And consequently, there is a capability and horizons for development, which is a great confidence factor in us, for us in France. That's why we will keep working with you in different sectors. We have worked with different ministers to early this morning that they said that the tax stability, the legal stability needs to be supported by different agreements for our common prosperity and for our geopolitical independence. Final point is that our partnership will keep using Egyptian cadres, and thank you so much for using the French language this morning. Have told Mr. President we want Egypt to be a francophone hub, training as much people as possible in the region, and therefore all the reforms in the field of education must continue. We need to continue our common partnerships and agreements, training young men and women using Arabic and French for the prosperity of Egypt and France together. This is an investment for the long run in the human capital. Thank you so much for your precious testimonies and words in the speeches delivered by myself and President Sisi. We express our full confidence in all of you and our shared will to deepen the level of partnership on the long run between Egypt and Your Excellency. Forum, I would like to extend my utmost gratitude for all of you for your participation, and we are confident that this meeting will be a launching point for a new phase of prosperous cooperation between Egypt and France. Thank you once again.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have just seen Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi and his French counterpart Emmanuel Macron concluding their address at the Egyptian-French Businessmen Forum. The atmosphere reflected the deepened commitment between Egypt and France to further enhance their strategic partnership in all fields. Both leaders actually shared vision for peace and stability in the region, underscored the importance of strengthening economic ties and fostering collaborative values in key sectors as energy, infrastructure, and technology. The discussions not only highlighted the political and diplomatic ties between the two nations, but also paved the way for increased opportunities in trade and investment, benefiting both Egypt's Vision 2030 and France's long-term economic interests. Both leaders underscored the importance of Egyptian-French partnerships in all fields and further enhancing such partnerships in other fields such as health, education, and artificial intelligence. They also said that they are looking forward to more partnerships, and French President Emmanuel Macron said that he supports Egypt's development goals and said that investing in Egypt means intensifying such strategic partnership between the country and Egypt in areas. French President Emmanuel Macron's visit to Egypt includes talks on Gaza with an emphasis on securing a ceasefire and addressing humanitarian needs. A trilateral summit with Egypt and Jordan will explore solutions for war on Gaza.
French President Emmanuel Macron's visit to Egypt comes at a critical moment in the Gaza war, with rising tension amid Israel's resumption of its war on the enclave. Macron and his counterpart, President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, are focusing on securing an end to the conflict, emphasizing the urgency of halting Israeli aggression and addressing the humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza. His visit includes a key trilateral summit with Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi and Jordan's King Abdullah, aimed at discussing situation in Gaza and exploring potential solutions. Macron will also travel to Arish, a city in North Sinai near the Gaza border, where he will meet humanitarian and security workers. The goal is to reaffirm France's commitment to providing humanitarian assistance and to highlight the need for renewed international cooperation, especially with Egypt as the main mediator in the conflict that has a leading role in supporting Gaza since the start of the war. Macron's office emphasized that the primary focus is to bring an end to the war's devastating toll on the people, calling for the immediate resumption of humanitarian aid to Gaza. The summit with Egyptian and Jordanian leaders addresses broader regional issues, including the future of Palestinian governance and the reconstruction of Gaza. France supports Egypt's plan for Gaza's reconstruction, ensuring the protection of Palestinian people while rebuilding their homes and infrastructure. The summit may also discuss a strategic partnership between France and Egypt with economic and security cooperation at the forefront. Gaza is the main focus. Macron's visit to Cairo highlights Egypt's leading role in providing final Palestinians.
Providing more analysis about the French President Emmanuel Macron's visit to Egypt and his implications on this visit, we're joined by Dr. Mohammed Osman from Cairo. He is the International Relations Specialist, and also by Dr. Amani Sulaiman. She is the Director of the Mediterranean Studies Institute, Alexandria University. Welcome to In Depth. And I would start with you, Dr. Osman. Now, sir, how can President Macron's landmark visit to Cairo and the trilateral summit support Egypt's role as a key mediator and potential peacekeeper in the ongoing conflict in Gaza?
Thank you for having me, Hala. Of course, this is indeed a landmark visit by the President of France to Egypt at a very acute time in the region where the Palestinian-Israeli conflict is entering a decisive phase, where the Palestinian cause is facing the danger of liquidation. France has stepped in evidently to support the collective Arab stance led by both Egypt and Jordan that rejects the idea of displacing the Palestinians and reaffirms the notion of the necessity of a ceasefire and ultimately the two-state solution. Having France as a major European power and a member of a permanent member of the Security Council and one of the world major powers as on the side of Arabs in this calculation is very important. France has voiced very strong support to Arab stances. France rejects displacement. France supports an immediate ceasefire. France supports the Egyptian Arab plan for the reconstruction of Gaza. Mm-hmm. So there is a complete alignment between both the Egyptian position and the French position in this regard. And of course, France's relationship is based on a historical track record of cooperation and integration between both sides. Both countries have a long history that stretches back to hundreds of years. Mm-hmm. We have had a strategic relationship for a very long time. During President al-Sisi, the relationship between Egypt and France flourished to unprecedented levels. So, of course, this can be exploited in order to further the agenda of peace and stability in the Middle East vis-a-vis the agenda of destabilization and warfare and belligerence.
Yes.
That is being furthered by both Israel and the United States in the region.
Dr. Sulaiman, how significant is Egypt's coordination with France in mobilizing humanitarian aid through El Arish to alleviate Gaza's escalating catastrophe, especially in light of the common vision between Egypt and France in this regard? Dr. Amani, can you hear me? I think we lost Dr. Amani Sulaiman. We'll try to get back to you. But for now, I will go back to Dr. Osman and ask you, how might the trilateral summit between Egypt, Jordan, and France influence global efforts towards a two-state solution amid rising Israeli aggression?
Well, of course, I think it will be a very strong proponent. France supports the solution, even though France has not yet recognized the state of Palestine as a sovereign entity, like is important. France is a global power and one of the second biggest economy in Europe, and of course the largest military force over there, and a very significant geopolitical actor. So having them behind the two-state solution agenda at a time where the two-state solution is placed on the crossfires, basically, with the U.S. administration that questions the validity of the two-state solution and tries to impose alternative formulas to resolve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict that do not deliver justice to the Palestinians in accordance with Israeli schemes and interests. Of course, it's very important and pivotal to have France and many other countries on the side of justice in this equation.
Yes, At your point, I will go now back to Dr. Amani Sulaiman. Dr. Amani, thank you very much for joining us again. I was asking you, how significant is Egypt's coordination with France in mobilizing humanitarian aid through El Arish to alleviate Gaza's escalating catastrophe, especially in light of the common vision between Egypt and France in Gaza?
Well, thanks for having me. First of all, we know that logistically and historically and geopolitically, Egypt is the closest country to Gaza, with joint borders, the only joint borders actually with the outer world. And it was Egypt's magnificent efforts trying to get as much as of the humanitarian aid inside the Strip since the beginning of the war. Now, the president going to Arish, we're speaking about 50 kilometers from the Gazan borders. He will see himself the situation. He will inspect the Mistral, the naval French hospital in the Mediterranean across El Arish. He will also see the French medical force to help with injuries, the injured Palestinians coming to Egypt, and all those who are in a dire situation medically and in a dire human need for help.
So in light of what you're saying, Dr. Amani, how does Macron's upcoming visit to El Arish actually underscores the Egyptian critical humanitarian and logistical contributions to addressing Gaza's suffering?
Well, actually, France has sent more than 1 ton of aid, medical supplies and food and tents to Egypt, to Arish, in order to get them into Gaza, while the Israelis doesn't allow any kind of humanitarian aid to enter the Strip. So the coming of the French president himself to this spot can tell the world that it's not Egypt that is, as the Israeli claims, Egypt that is not getting the humanitarian aid inside Israel. It's the Israelis, backed by the American, who are just surrounding the Palestinians and beating them with more and more constraints not to get the humanitarian aid in. A political figure with the weight of Emmanuel Macron can tell the world what's happening there, and he's not taking sides. It's not like he's an Arab like us. He will just go there and say the humanitarian aid is there and the Israelis and people.
And he's also a representative of the European vision regarding what's going on in Gaza.
Of course, now after the Brexit and after the absence of Angela Merkel, France is 100% leading the EU, and he can tell the Europeans where their money, their donations, and their financial and humanitarian support to Gaza is going. It's stuck there in Arish, and they cannot enter the Strip.
Indeed. Dr. Osman, how could Egypt-France collaboration and peace, at least in your own opinion?
Of course, France and Egypt have coordinated not only on the subject of the conflict in Gaza, but also in recent history and even in very recent events. They have coordinated thoroughly on many files, including the situation in Libya, the situation in Syria, situation in Sudan, and in all of these hotspots in the region, the Egyptian and French positions have always been quite harmonious, and they rhymed and aligned together in many respects. And I think it's very important for France to have Egypt as a determinant of stability, a proponent of stability and peace in the region, given that Egypt, just as President Macron said just a few minutes ago during the business forum in Cairo University, along with President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, he said that Egypt is a geopolitical, military, and demographic power. And I think that this is a very accurate classification of Egypt as a state and regional power in the Middle East. As such, a country force that supports stability in the region, in contrast to other countries like Israel and Iran, for example, which have been their stabilizing agents in the region. So I think France is very interested in that, and not because France is good and that France is wearing the robes, the saintly robes of good, but no, because France has an integral interest in the stability of the Middle East, because any instability in the Middle East or chaos in the Middle East eventually spills over into Europe, which is already economically strained and is suffering from crisis and economic crisis that will only be compounded by any further instability in the Middle East.
Definitely. Dr. Sulaiman, why is Egypt's reconstruction plan for Gaza pivotal? And how can internationally backing from France in particular ensure its success post-conflict?
Well, we have seen President Macron says that he's 100% supporting the Egyptian plan of reconstruction in Gaza that was presented to the Arab League of States. And France could financially and technically help Egypt with the construction. Both countries has a very long-term experience in reconstruction of zones. Egypt already participated in reconstruction in Libya, in Lebanon, in Iraq, and elsewhere, and France as well, and even for France part, maybe Haiti, maybe very far from their homeland. So if the French are accepting to support Egyptian, and if it was implemented, we can cooperate with them, whether in technical support. They can also secure funding or partial funding from the EU, which has always been a great financial and administrative supporter to the Palestinian Authority and to many institutions in Palestine.
Dr. Osman, how does France's alignment with the Arab call for a ceasefire and the rejection of the forced placement of Palestinians contrasting with U.S. support for Israel actually reflect the growing divergence, if we may say, in U.S.-Europe relations?
I think we can read Macron's visit to Egypt and the trilateral summit, Presidents al-Sisi and the King of Jordan, Abdullah II, are an indicator that there is a huge divergence globally between some major European powers like France, for example, and Germany and others, and the United States on a multitude of issues, including free trade and tariffs, the settlement of the Russia-Ukraine war, and of course the situation in the Middle East. Within the context of the situation of the Middle East, France sees that trying to implement the Trump/Israeli vision of settlement of the Gaza conflict will only further instability of the region and might actually lead to an expansion of the conflict in the Middle East, which, as I said before, will hamper the economic well-being and stability, even the immense pressure. On the other hand, the French see, so that's more proactive role along with moderate Arab powers like Egypt and Jordan in order to resist the Israeli-American agenda and try to impose a more sound and logical vision that will ensure sustained stability and will restore calm and peace in the region. However, of course, this does not mean that this will yield wonderful results immediately. We are facing the United States, a much more influential actor in the region, and is much more effective in its support for Israel. And there are which France and all of the European Union to challenge Germany in the Middle East, and I do not think that this is actually feasible. However, at the end of the day, I think it's better than nothing. It's better than being on our own in this calculus, having a country like France, among others, on our side, trying to push forward the agenda of peace, the agenda of
reconstruction.
Will be much better than standing alone in the face of the genocidal maniacs who are running Israel along with the US back.
Indeed. Dr. Amani Sulaiman, we have just watched President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi and his counterpart Emmanuel Macron during the Egyptian-French Businessmen Forum talking about further enhancing the strategic partnerships between their countries and manifesting this partnership in even other fields. Now, how can Egypt leverage its strategic partnerships with a country like France to stabilize regional hotspots such as Libya, Sudan, and Syria amid global turbulence? We have heard them talking about partnerships in education, in health, in energy, in reconstruction. How could this happen on a regional scale?
Well, France is a major global and regional power. Both Egypt and France are the co-founders of the Union for the Mediterranean since 2008. And the work of the Union for the Mediterranean is really based on joint projects to elevate and to combat certain developmental issues in the region. So by now, as we have seen, the many agreements that have been signed between Egypt and France are going to develop more expertise, efforts on how to run certain projects in construction, in education, even in cancer and oncology, on many files and many issues. Building this kind of joint expertise will be easier to other countries where both Egypt and France are trusted provider of help, aid, and knowledge. You can imagine moving these achievements or replicating them from Egypt, perhaps in Sudan, perhaps in Libya, and you will have both the logistical help from Egypt and the technical help from France, joined by what we have accumulated from decades of cooperation. So both political trust and technical knowledge can be transferred based on this strategic partnership to neighboring countries that are in a not very good situation domestically. They need help, they need reconstruction, they need modernization in many sectors. Yes. So logistically and technically, Egypt and France can help the neighboring countries through their joint.
Thank you so much. Now, legal immigration, for example, and terrorism in the Mediterranean basin align with France's broader regional security goals?
Egypt's very proactive role in combating illegal immigration through the Mediterranean into its borders, and of course they come from a multitude of North African countries. Egypt used to be one of them, however. From Libya, for example, in cooperation with the local Libyan authorities. And of course, this does serve Egyptian interests, and it also serves the security interests of France. And also in the field of terrorism, France has been burned by the terrorism. So in Egypt, we have all seen a few years back the massacres land. Accusations, and they are a common foe of Egypt and France. So the security coordination in countering and combating terrorism in the cradle, in the areas of its inception, in North Africa or in the Sahara or Sub-Saharan Africa or in the Middle East, such security cooperation, of course, is very instrumental for both Egypt and France. So Egypt's pioneering role in combating illegal immigration and combating terrorism does cater to French interests and does strengthen Egypt's negotiating position with France with regards to enhancing the bilateral cooperation in the field of the humanitarian field, the developmental and economic field, as well as within coordinating a common foreign policy. And of course, one of the results that have been reaped through such cooperation and such mutual regards to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Part of that is trying is to preserve, to help preserving its
Well, that was Dr. Muhammad Osman, international relations specialist, and also Dr. Aminu Sulaiman, director of the Mediterranean Studies Institute, Alexandria University. Thank you very much, both of you, for your special and valuable insights. And from Cairo's historic streets to El Arish's humanitarian lifeline, Macron's visit cements Egypt-France ties, amplifying a shared vision between Cairo and Paris to secure a lasting ceasefire in Gaza, commence reconstruction, and revive the Palestinian-Israeli peace process. This brings us to the end of today's episode of In-Depth, unveiling pathways to hope amid crises. I'm Hala Al-Hamalawi. Thank you so much for joining us. Stay tuned for more updates here on Q News.